All right, folks, it's time for world politics. We'll see what's happening in the political landscape and see who joins us on this particular day. And along those lines, it's always interesting conversations here with the world politics. So we're going to see what's going on and what folks have to say about the political landscape and all along those lines. So it's always interesting in this particular world that we live in and all along that kind of way. But we're going to see what folks have to say about these stories, and like I said, we'll see who joins us in our relationship to these world stories and what's going on. He lived his work deeply. The five Palestinian journalists killed in the Gaza airstrike, I should say. So that's what some folks are talking about. And Israel links deadly hospital attack in Gaza to Hamas surveillance camera. So that's something that people are talking about. So Israeli military says strikes on Gaza hospital targeted a Hamas camera. So that's definitely something that our folks are talking about as Reuters and AP demand answers from Israeli officials after those airstrikes that killed those folks in Palestine and all along those lines. So that's definitely something that folks are talking about and definitely paying attention to. Russia raises August oil export plan after drone strikes disrupt refineries, according to what sources are reporting from earlier today. So Russian oil refineries and terminals burned as Ukraine hits Putin's war economy. So the Ukrainian attacks that are forcing Russia to ration its fuel. So definitely that's something that even the Wall Street Journal is talking about as well. And fire at a Rostov oil refinery extinguished nearly a week after the Ukrainian drone attack. So definitely that's going on. And actually, Euronews.com says that Ukraine has knocked out nearly one-fifth of Russia's oil refining capacity. So definitely that's something that people are talking about in terms of political news. And French political turmoil sends European stocks down. Wall Street edges up. Fears of a French government collapse and its borrowing costs are soaring. So there's definitely some costs going on with borrowing in the French government and all along those lines. France plunges back into crisis after Prime Minister Bayro's confidence vote backfires. So that took place earlier today. And the French Prime Minister fights for survival as revivals refuse to support the confidence vote. And French stocks slide as Paris government faces a risk of collapse. And the UK's hard right Reform Party says it will mass deport migrants if it wins power. So they're prepared to deport 600,000 under migration plans. The jail Nigel Farage promises mass deportations if elected the UK Prime Minister. So Farage attacks for ugly rhetoric of plan for mass deportation of asylum seekers. And definitely that's what folks are talking about, both in the U.S. as well as in other parts of the global economy and the global world as well. Two men publicly caned for hugging and kissing in Indonesia. Men who were charged with hugging and kissing are among those publicly caned in Indonesia. So definitely there's been a case of public caning as those two gay men were publicly caned in Indonesia after being caught kissing and all along those lines. A U.S. tariff exemption for small orders ends Friday. It's a big deal to some shoppers and businesses. So definitely that is something that folks are talking about as well and all along those lines. So definitely we'll see what goes on in this space. So definitely it looks like that is a world news item that folks are definitely talking about as well. And residents flee as Palestinians report overnight IDF shelling of Gaza City outskirts. So Palestinian families displaced as Israel pushes deeper into Gaza City. Families leave Gaza City after a night of bombardment and Israelis protest. So that took place on earlier today as well. And definitely that's something that folks are definitely talking about in the news and around the news and all in that kind of way. Australia says Iran was behind anti-Semitic arson attacks on its soil. So Australia politics, the Prime Minister says far-right extremists who believe that they are above the law were the ones responsible for the attacks. So Australia expels Iranian ambassador over anti-Semitic attacks and all along those lines. So definitely anti-Semitism might be on the rise as well. IDF has busted last bank handling foreign currency in the West Bank. So dozens wounded as Israel raids West Bank City, where the Palestinian Authority is located at, and all along those lines. A child was among 58 Palestinians wounded by Israeli army raid in Ramallah. So definitely that's something that folks are paying attention to as the IDF raids West Bank financial institutions over their links to terrorism and all in that kind of way. So we'll definitely be following this story as well. And an old master painting looted by Nazis that was spotted in an Argentinian property listing. So artwork looted by Nazis 80 years ago was spotted in a estate agent ad. So definitely that is something that folks are talking about, as the painting stolen by the Nazis during World War II is believed discovered in a real estate listing. So we'll see if they're able to give it back to its rightful home and all along those lines. They're definitely Nazis looted art discovered after 80 years thanks to that real estate ad and all along that kind of way. So definitely the real estate ad has helped them find a piece of lost art. And Israel must respond to hostage deal currently on the table, Qatar Foreign Ministry spokesperson says. So Israel is facing growing pressure over hostages and a Gaza offensive. So following Trump's lead, Netanyahu shifts strategy on ceasefire even after Hamas accepts. So Qatar says Israel is yet to respond to the Gaza ceasefire proposal, and that was reported earlier today. And Israel must take hostage deal. Its military chief is saying that they need to take that deal and all along those lines. So we're going to see if that is the case or not the case and what goes on in that space. So lots going on there as well. And at least one dead as Typhoon Kajiki slams Vietnam. So definitely that's something that's been going on since about yesterday. And death tolls from Typhoon Kajiki rise in Vietnam. So definitely that is something that folks are paying attention to, talking about, and all along those lines. So definitely be interested to see what's going on and who pops in. Still waiting for one of the bosses, either Nick or Kim, as well as Sasha Starr and others to join this particular conversation. Maybe even Rick Rosen or pop in as well. Top Senate Democrat says Gaza famine is a shameful black mark on humanity, admits party failed to act. So that's something that people are talking about as Israel pushes back at tailor-made UN-backed report claiming the Gaza famine. So 3 more Gazans have died of malnutrition, the Hamas-run health ministry said earlier today. So definitely this whole notion of what's going on with hunger is something that is a war-torn issue, and definitely is in these countries that have been in the middle of strikes. Well, I mean, in the middle of a famine, I should say. So definitely be interested to see what goes on in that space. And top Senate Democrats say Gaza famine is a shameful black mark on humanity, but it admits that the party failed to act. So arguing over hunger in Gaza, kind of obscene, is what a UNC official said, and all along those lines. So we have to see if these stories are covered more in the regular newscast, which will be on, our regular newscast is Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock. And then, of course, we got Ukraine, Russia, and China on Tuesdays and Fridays. Bolivia right-wing candidate pledges to scrap the lithium deal with China and Russia. So Bolivia's long-ruling party was almost eliminated from Congress. Final vote results are showing that. So maybe he's got his thing on that whole notion of what's going on in the world and all along those lines. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about a number of these stories. If you've got comments, definitely let us know. Always interested in hearing people's comments about the news as we reported here on World Politics and some of our other sources as well. And as Kimberly always says, join the conversation and provide positive vibes and maybe even some solutions as well. So we definitely appreciate that remark from Kim and all along those lines. So hopefully maybe she'll be joining us as well. So we'll see what happens in that space. So like I said, Bolivia's long-ruling party was almost eliminated from Congress. Final vote results show. And Bolivia's right-wing ex-president Jorge Correa says he'll change everything if elected. Presidential hopeful vows to negotiate Bolivia's $14 billion debt. So it looks like he's saying he's going to come in here and wipe out some of the debt and all along those lines. So we'll see if that's the case or not the case. Even Reuters was reporting that Bolivia's swing rate sounds alarm for Latin American leftists, and that was reported about 5 days ago. And 2 police officers were killed in a shooting in rural Australia. The man is underway after 2 police officers were shot dead in the rural Australian town. So, Port Punkai police shooting is where this incident was at. And police say two officers murdered in cold blood in Australia, triggering this intense manhunt and all along those lines. Alleged Punka shooter once described police as terrorist thug and all along those lines. But definitely, like I said, I did see that Johnson left the discussion earlier, and then he popped back in, and then who knows? We'll see what he does on Friday. But it was a good discussion around Ukraine and Russia, and with those shows are every Tuesday and Friday. Transport minister gets speeding ticket after posting video of himself driving 140 miles an hour on a highway in Turkey. So that's definitely something that folks are paying attention to as well. And Norway Wealth Fund divests from Caterpillar, five Israeli banks over Gaza right violations. So the world's largest sovereign wealth fund exits Caterpillar and five banks on Israeli concerns. Norway Wealth Fund sells its Caterpillar stake over Israeli allegations. So definitely looks like they're pulling out and all in that way. So we'll see what goes on in that space. And America's leading physician groups are now openly defying RFK Jr. So new COVID vaccine guidance leaves some unsure what to do, and that was reported earlier today. So even some people like Bloomberg are asking what Americans need to know about COVID shots this season and all along those lines. So even in the Bay Area, there's an article in the San Francisco Journal that says one COVID shot this fall, Bay Area fall area may have some solutions for that. So we'll see what folks have to say about that. So new COVID shots this fall, who gets them and who pays, that is definitely something that is being reported, and we'll be following this story as well. And Germany and Canada announced deeper ties on critical minerals and defense. So Merce and Carney vowed deeper cooperation on critical minerals. So it does look like this is a good news between Germany and Canada. So Germany updates Canadian and Belgian prime ministers visited Berlin. So that is definitely a story where we're seeing some new alliances come out as well. And Ottawa is to back a new port infrastructure, signs critical mineral agreements with Germany. So Germany and Canada are to deepen their critical mine mineral cooperation in a supply chain push. And Ukraine admits Russian army has entered central Dnipropetrovsk region. Fighting is ongoing. Ukraine admits that Russia has entered that key region, and we'll see how this plays out as Russian troops gain a toehold in another Ukrainian region. So that's definitely something people are talking about, and that might even be part of the Alaskan conversation, what Trump was willing to give up, what Putin was willing to give up, and all along those lines. So we don't know how far those discussions are going or what's happening in that space. But I do see Sasha's with me, so I'm going to bring him in, and I'm sure that after me rambling for about 14 minutes, he's got some ideas about what's going on. So it looks like there's a key region that the Russian army has entered, and all along those lines, and that was reported earlier today. And now it looks like China's Xi will be welcoming Putin and Modi in a grand show of solidarity. So it looks like they're trying to build themselves up, and I know that those three countries are all part of BRICS and everything like that. So how are you doing this evening, and what is your thoughts around some of these stories and any new developments that you've been following on Russia and Ukraine since y'all's show earlier today?
Thank you, Mark. I would like to stop for a while on my earlier Ukrainian show today. And there was a question, perhaps controversial, was raised that Trump doesn't read reports. For example, his morning briefings or whatever. He wants that to be delivered to him in oral form rather than in written form. So he doesn't, I'm not saying that he doesn't know how to read. I would stop right there. He knows how to read, at least I really do hope that that's the case. But what I'm saying is that he doesn't like to read, that he doesn't read anything given the top lines in newspapers or so on. He reads only specially prepared for him materials. However, that's not the most important thing what I've discussed today. The most important thing is that Trump if at the beginning of his second cadence there could have been a guess whether he will be more on Putin's side, as was in first cadence, his tendency is definitely there, or whether he will be on the Ukrainian side, or he will be like independent judge who will try to bring peace. Well, now after 7 months of his presidency, now it's in its 8 month, it's becoming obvious that he is 100% on Russian side. He is covering Putin by postponing every time for 2 weeks, 50 days, another 10 days, whatever. He just provides Putin a green light to destroy Ukraine, to kill the children, women, and now when he's saying, "Okay, I need 2 more months." Oh, here comes J.D. Vance. He says, "Oh, by the end of the year, the war should be over." They are playing the game which would allow Putin to destroy and capture Ukrainians and have a decisive victory. So then Trump will say, "Well, Zelensky, remember I told you you have no cards to play. Here we go. You lost.
Yeah.
Okay, baby, now what's next?" But that's not going to happen. They don't understand, boss, this distinguished uh, politicians, Trump, J.D. Vance. They don't understand it's not how large is your territory or what's your advantage in number of people that you have or economy or anything. It's a heroic army which Ukraine does possess and Russia does not. Russian army, they don't understand what they're fighting for. Putin bribes them for a couple of million rubles just for them to sign a contract and go to fight. And there was very interesting video which I saw where a Russian mother who lost already two sons in this war. He is now talking to her remaining son and telling him, "You must go." He says, "Well, I'm scared. I'm going to be killed." "It doesn't matter. You will get paid, so you will help your family. Go." Wonderful. That's what Trump is supporting. He's supporting a murderer who is murdering and corrupting his own people and killing innocent Ukrainians. That's what's happened. And that's where Trump is and all his cabinet and vice president and all others.
Well, it sounds like it. I did see that there was an article where President Trump, and we talked about it before, has projected himself as a peacemaker, and he's saying that he's ended all these different wars, and some of the wars are still going on. So that means they haven't been ended, whether it's Israel, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's some of the ones in Africa and a number of other places. So he's claiming that he's ended these wars, and then he turned around and the wars are still going on. So what's your take on this claim by him that he has ended all these wars?
No, he's not ending any wars. He's not a peacemaker of any kind. The problem with Trump is for American people, they have to bear with him until the end of 28
Right.
and the beginning of 29, actually,
Yeah.
unless he will remain president for another foreseeable future through all kind of constitution manipulations, using maybe uh, I don't know what kind of mechanism he can use. He will appeal to a Supreme Court to adjust or change constitution, or he will himself actually he will throw out constitution and said that he is supreme commander and he is allowed to do anything what he can do, and the Supreme Court already said that whatever he does as a president, he is immune. So if he will take a constitution and rip it apart and will say that from tomorrow there is no more constitution, there is no constitution in the United States, what anybody can do about it? If he is completely immune, according to Supreme Court, then what's the remedy for that? Oh, you said there is no constitution. Okay, so there is no constitution. And how are we going to rule the country? You say, I will rule the country. You don't have to worry about it. I will rule everything. I will decide what we are investing in and what we don't, and who is in Federal Reserve, or I can fire all Federal Reserve, not just some of its members. It's me. You have to go and just pray for my health and for me, and I don't need anybody, okay? Not even Constitution.
Well, apparently he did something that caught his people off guard, including some of his conservative folks, and all along those lines, because he's sparked a backlash even among his own folks, because he's saying he would allow 600,000 Chinese students into American universities, and we know he's been very critical of the American universities and everything like that. So he's definitely been going after the universities, but now he's saying that after new vetting for student visas moved to block foreign enrollment to Harvard and expanding the grounds to terminate international students' abilities, that he like to back the Chinese. So even Secretary of State Marco Rubio has singled out China as the second highest source of international students in the U.S., saying in May that the State Department would revoke visas for students tied to the Chinese Communist Party and boost vetting of new applications. So they're saying one thing, but then apparently Trump is saying something else, because he's saying, hey, I like these Chinese to come in here and get their education in the States and spend their money in the States. So what is your take on this notion of him being supportive of China?
Mm,
He wants a bunch of Chinese students to come in.
he wants Chinese students to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it for economic reasons?
I think it's economic reasons, and he probably thinks that they will do good in terms of some of the companies that they work for. There's a lot of Chinese companies and a lot of Indians that own companies and things like that. So maybe it's his way to give an olive branch to the Chinese leadership by saying that he's willing to have, because that's a whole lot of folks. That's 600,000 Chinese, and I know some of the folks in North Korea have been aiding the Russians, but China hasn't been, except for with their weapons. They haven't put boots on the ground, as you like to say, and everything, at least not that we're aware of. But it looks like U.S. and China will be talking in Stockholm on trade. With there's even a hope of a Trump G summit. We know how well the Trump Putin summit went, but apparently there's hope that Trump and G will have a summit of some sort or another as well. So China's defending its oil deal with Russia and Iran, but they're also looking to have some talks and everything. So yeah, we're going to be on better footing with China, because that is one of the two true superpowers that's out there and everything. Or what's going on in your mind with China, and should we be concerned about China?
I don't think that we have to be concerned about anything. It's at present only two countries are not agreeing to anything with Trump: is China and Canada.
Right.
And as you can see, Canada is uh, rewriting its economic policies, and it's establishing new um, trade routes for itself and their businesses. Now he's in Germany. He was already in Poland before, and actually he's forging a lot of new ties with European unions, with South Korea, Japan, and even China. So there will be a lot of new agreements where US is going not to be a part of it at all. So Canada will slowly but quite decisively will try to sever, if not all ties, but most of the ties with United States, because it's not reliable partner and you cannot rely on that in the long run. So therefore, that's what at stake right now.
Yeah, it sounds like that and everything. It looks like thousands of Americans are rushing for tax forgiveness as Trump apparently is erasing millions in tax debt. So that's something else that people are talking about. So it says that thousands of Americans are rushing to resolve their tax debt amid speculation that the new Republican administration may eliminate the IRS Fresh Start program and everything like that. So how are you doing in terms of your taxes, Rick? And what are your thoughts around this notion that folks may get some tax relief and everything like that? I heard
So,
there was tax relief in one of the countries. I mean, one of the states that people were getting once they were
all
down the
right.
West
So
Coast.
my dad was a CPA, so he did my taxes for years, and then I did my own taxes for years, but they got too complicated, so now we hire a guy. But I've never had a problem paying taxes, even in California. Like the Republicans like to say that we've got the highest taxes in the country, and I don't buy it. I've never had to pay more than, I don't know, even the worst year, I think, paid no more than 6% of adjusted gross in state income, and it's usually more like 3% in state income tax. And our property tax in California, we pay like 1/3 of 1%, which is just crazy low because of Prop 13, which uh, freezes the amount you pay close to what you paid when you bought your house. So if you stay in your house for 20 years, the percent you're paying just keeps going down. So, you know, I find plus the federal tax rates are the lowest they've been in 60 years. Like the taxationist theft assholes are just like idiots. We pay a reasonable amount in taxes. We really don't pay enough because you'll hear when you hear Nick complain about the huge federal deficit, part of that is people not being willing to pay. Uh, so now with Trump, if he's going to give tax relief to people, it's not going to be fair. Under Biden, people who didn't go to college like to complain that Biden giving tax relief for college debt what wasn't fair, though it would be better for the country. We need an educated population. So we know that if Trump comes up with programs to give people tax relief, it's going to be his people. It's
Right.
not going to be college debt. And he's going to figure out some way to be a dick about it.
Yeah, that's probably the case. He's gonna figure out some way to do that. How many states or cities do you think are gonna actually have National Guard? 'Cause like I said, we got y'all had it in LA, they had it in DC. He's threatening Chicago. He's threatening a couple of other places. So, how many states do you think will eventually have National Guard troops
It
on their?
depends on if people, I mean, there are no easy means of standing up to it. Like, if people tried to chase him off the streets, Trump would use that as an excuse to crack down even harder. And the Republicans have a slim majority in the House of Representatives, 219 to 212. And the Republicans haven't shown any spine at all. They will vote along with frickin' Trump on whatever. Um, so I don't know. I mean, we had them in LA. They didn't do anything. They didn't stop anything. They stood around for a month. And
This is an interesting new development that I'm seeing. Trump's Department of Transportation is threatening to withhold funds from states that don't enforce English requirements for truck drivers. So, Trump administration is threatening to cut millions in federal funding from three states over their truckers' English, because we know that truckers come from all over the world, including some that are from European countries as well as Spanish countries. But I guess he wants to say, you got to speak English, and when you're going across those interstate lines and everything like that, you can't be speaking in code in Spanish or German or whatever other languages are out there. So,
so there would be a reasonable way to do that with a driving test that makes sure that regardless of your language, you understand American road signs. But that Trump is not going to do the reasonable thing. He will come up with some set of requirements that will be, more, anti non-English speaker than that.
Yep. I can see him doing that. What's your thoughts on that, Sasha? Because I remember y'all had a big trucker strike in Canada. I think that was a month or two ago, but y'all settled it, and I don't know if the language was an issue there and everything like that. So, how are the truckers doing in Canada? Because I do remember that strike from a couple of months ago.
Canada officially is bilingual country with English and French, although French is used prominently in Quebec, a little bit in New Brunswick, but rather than that, the rest of Canada is English. Although, let's say I'm in Ontario, let's say I have a court case, say a speeding ticket, and I can insist that I need a French interpreter. Why would I need French interpreter? It's a joke because I don't know French myself. So why would I need one? Nobody knows. But or you can ask for English interpreter. Let's say I speak only Russian, and I say, okay, I don't understand anything. What's going
So,
on?
I mean, the
Okay, you
trouble,
need interpreter, English, Russian interpreter. You'll get one.
America has had incredibly good luck as a country. We are geographically isolated. So, in the world wars, in World War II, we lost 400,000 troops compared to Russia, which lost 10 million because
27. 27.
27 million. We lost only 1.5% of that because we are far away from it. So we've had good luck. We've been spared so much. And so when we have the bad luck to have our first crazy asshole as president, we don't know what to do about it. We can quote the founding fathers that they designed things into the Constitution to prevent tyranny, but they put that stuff in 200 years ago before modern tyranny had the tools that it does.
I don't understand one thing already before you appeared. I raised the question. Let's see if Trump will um, cancel the Constitution one day. Let's say tomorrow. He's saying now from noon tomorrow there will be no Constitution. How come? Well, I'm Supreme Commander in Chief. I'm the president, and there was a decision by Supreme Court that everything what I do as a president, I'm immune. Okay, so this is what I want. This is done deal. Thank you. What is a remedy of American people or anybody against such a scenario?
There's no easy remedy because the Supreme Court is 6-3 conservatives. Now there is some remedy in that only 2 of the 6 are unreasonable a-holes. 4 of the 6 conservative justices will often do the right thing and would certainly, stand up against, if they had any way of doing it, to the arbitrary, just Trump canceling the Constitution. I mean, Trump wouldn't just cancel it. He would say there's an emergency, a national emergency, that we can go back to having the Constitution when we fix this, whatever the problem is.
Well, so when he says when he sent National Guards to LA, to Chicago,
He says emergency.
so he can create a national emergency at any
Yeah.
time when he needs.
And the U.S. is so big. We're 3,000 miles east to west and 1,500 miles north to south. And, in France, France can have a revolution where people take to the streets in Paris, 200 years ago. The U.S. is too big and too divided. You can't, it would be hard to stand up to super dictatorial federal decisions.
Well, what's happening right now is gerrymandering. So what's going on in Texas, and then Gavin Newsom doing pretty well similar thing in LA, from what I understand, is so that could be carried out in other states.
It is. There are a bunch of states that have arguments and who've successfully gerrymandered. It used to be there were maybe 100 seats in the House that could go either way. Now there are fewer than 50.
Yeah.
Um, in 2010, the Republicans figured out with a strategy called Red Map that the way you win the country, the way you take it over, is to take over the state legislatures because it's cheaper to elect people to the state houses across America than it is to get them elected to DC. And the state houses are usually the ones who determine the congressional districts. So after 2010, after a few years of this strategy, Republicans controlled 38 state legislatures.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
So they're in control of the legislatures.
Well, there's been a little pushback. The Democrats, slowly have caught on. But yeah, the Republicans have still been way more successful at doing it.
Yeah, looks that way for sure.
You can even look at some of the places around here in North Carolina and see who's in control, because they have the majority here in North Carolina where I'm at and everything, even though the governor is a Democrat. But in terms of the legislature, it is definitely Republican control. So there's been a lot of gridlock on a lot of things here, and there's gridlock in a lot of places that have this kind of management style and everything like that. So what advice would you give if you were, and this is for both of you, if you were talking to a Democratic strategist and they're thinking about the 2026 election, which is coming around the corner, or they're thinking even about their local elections, because there are local elections this year, and definitely planning for 2028, what advice would you give them to put up a viable candidate against probably Vance, since Vance apparently is the heir apparent?
So the only thing that seems to have worked so far and that people are enjoying is when Newsom does social media like Trump is doing it. Just he's tweeting the same way, putting up the same heroic images to show how ridiculous Trump shit is. So Adam Schiff and the guy, the minority leader in the House, Jeffries.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah, they get a ton of criticism for not fighting back aggressively. Though when you ask people, like, what should they do? Nobody knows. They just know they don't like what they're doing, which is like Trump is threatening to fire Cook, who runs, what does she run?
Federal Reserve. Well, she's one of the
right, one of the governors, and then of course he doesn't like the black one, so he wants to fire her. And Hakeem Jeffries wrote a strong letter saying you can't, you're not allowed to do that under the rules that this, and people are like, yeah, what is that letter going to do? So I think the one thing you have to do is at least sound aggressive. Like Newsom is sounding pretty aggressive. Is he doing much legislation? Well, and he's going to try to gerrymander the state more. But I don't know what people can do except be as obnoxious in their rhetoric as Trump is.
Well, maybe that's a case of what modern America is all about. Maybe people in modern America like a brash, aggressive style, ridiculous tweets back and forth, so 24 hours a day, and they feel that they are getting their money's worth. Okay, so they elected the guy, he's working 24 hours a day, he sends tweets, he does this, he flies around the world, he talks to many people, so they believe that they got their money's worth and enjoying it. And if somebody like Joe Biden, who hardly can talk or walk, and they believe that, okay, we are spending our money for what? For a half-dead guy? Why do we need that?
Yeah, Biden hid in the White House. Biden should have gotten out there and said, look, yeah, I walk shitty. You didn't elect me for my ability to walk. I can still think better than that other asshole.
Roosevelt couldn't walk, and yet he was highly regarded.
Yeah, the Biden White House played scared for years, and it screwed us.
Now, you see, Rick, the people like Trump, you cannot train him and teach him how to do this or that. It's some kind of a natural ability, which is, in Trump's case, excessive, but that's the way he is. And it seems to me that American people like it.
Well, you can't train them, you can grow them. The deal that, like, when you look at some of the monsters, like Harvey Weinstein, a rape monster, I've worked in Hollywood, and there are people like that. And the deal is, they didn't start off being monstrous. They started with a little bit of sexual harassment, and they got away with it because they were talented, they were powerful, and then they did a little more. And after a while, they just did whatever the heck they wanted.
Well, they feel entitled to that.
Yeah, they feel entitled to it and everything. Just really quickly, I did see that Donald Trump is wanting to rebrand his Big Beautiful Bill. He loves that name and everything. So now he's leaning into his branding skills, because they say that's one of his great attributes. And he said that the name he selected was good for getting it approved, but it's not good for explaining to people what it's all about. So now that he's going out to the public, he wants to change it from the one big beautiful bill, because he says people don't understand what that is and everything, because apparently the move comes as the legislation is remaining unpopular in polls, including.
So what does he want to call it now?
That's what I'm trying to see what he's going to change it to and everything. So last month, in a landmark achievement, I also proudly signed the largest working class tax cut in American history. So the bill that, I'm not going to use the term great, big, beautiful, that was good for getting it approved, but it's not good for explaining to people what it's all about. Trump said it's a massive tax cut for the middle class. His remark represented an admission from Trump that the name he chose for his signature domestic legislation has shortcomings. So I guess he wants to call it a massive tax cut for the middle class.
All right. So, and people will believe that, even though if you look at the bill, the tax cuts for the middle class and some for the poor have a ceiling, and they expire in 2028.
Right.
Unlike the part of the bill that is a tax cut for the rich, which no ceiling, doesn't expire. But yeah, you can call it whatever you want, and enough people will believe it. And of course, the press has been criticized for the past 10 years because they don't express enough. They don't call bullshit enough.
They definitely don't call bullshit enough, and there's one that was majoring in that field. I've been saying that for a while, that they don't call BS enough, and they should go back and remember the Walter Cronkites and the other great, the David Brankleys and the other great ones. Yeah, I would even say that, and I'm not a fan of his, that Buckley called bullshit a lot, and all along those lines, William Buckley and everything like that.
Yeah, Buckley had a saying that his job as a conservative is to stand athwart of history, to stand in the way of history and say, stop. Conservatives used to hate change, and Trump is just like, he's not a conservative, he's a radical. But as Sasha would say, this is world politics. So there is another, besides the disaster of Trump, Trump will be done in a couple of years.
Well, speaking of world politics, and this is a question I got for Sasha, because Sasha, you follow the economics. You have a show that's on tomorrow called Modern Investment, and I alluded to it 2 or 3 times on this network and everything. And Rick is right. We are called world politics. I know that Chris Greco and others on this network are not the biggest fans of France and everything like that, but France looks like it's on the verge of collapse. So what's going on in France, and is this something that we should be concerned about from a world political landscape standpoint? Because it does seem like they are on the verge. I mean, I heard Nick talk about depression for us in the United States, but he's also saying that's 2030. This is happening now in France. So how concerned should we be about one of the major European powers about to be on the verge of collapse? And what are you hearing about that from an investment standpoint?
I have no idea what's happening in France to believe that it's on the verge of collapse. What exactly is it?
No, they're saying that. Go ahead.
I assume that it says the prospect that France's minority government could collapse.
Right.
triggered a sharp sell-off. So I assume that they're going to need to hold a vote, and they're going to need to form some new ruling coalition.
A ruling
Okay,
coalition, right? That's
let's
what.
do it.
So I mean, it's not like there's going to be, you know, fires and rioting in the streets. There's going to probably have to be an election and maybe some protests.
Maybe some protests and some elections, but there are major companies. I mean, I remember, I think they're still here in the North Carolina area, but Rome Polnick is a French company, just like GlaxoSmithKline is a English company that is based here and everything. So if the French government collapses, wouldn't that have a serious impact on the French version of the stock exchange? Because I know every country has its own
Yeah,
stock.
the French stock exchange dropped. They have different markets like we do. One dropped 1.6, one dropped 2%, one dropped nearly 3%. That happens in stock markets. It's not the end of the world. It's, you know, it might not even be the biggest drop of the year in
What
France.
happened on a Liberation Day here in the United States? How much markets dropped?
I 3%. I don't know.
3%.
5% and more in one day. Remember that?
Yeah.
And it was nothing but politician influenced action. Just one man, he
Well,
could bring
speaking of
the
what, speaking
stock exchange, the biggest one in the world, 5% down in one day. That's really something.
Well, speaking of the biggest band, and we're gonna come back to Trump because a whistleblower, guys love those whistleblowers, says that a former senior Doge official now at the Social Security Administration copied the Social Security number, names, and birthdays of over 300 million Americans to a private section of the agency's cloud. So the private cloud environment is accessible by other former Doge employees at the SSA and is lacking adequate security. So how concerned are you, Rick? Because like I said, Sasha's in.
Well, I mean, we get our stuff stolen all the time. So the worst case scenario is they have to spend $1 billion getting everybody in America a new Social Security number. I think they would clean it up and figure out a way to short of doing that. But I mean, there's
with everybody, because the Social Security number is used by everybody from job applications to a number of other things. So, are you suggesting that this is something that could be done and should be done? Because that would be
no. I'm
overhaul.
saying no, that they'll have to figure out something to do that is less extreme than that. But it's complete incompetence on the part of Doge, and also just not giving a shit, just coming in and wrecking shit. But it's not that dissimilar from stuff that always, happens a few times a year when like a credit reporting agency gets breached.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about just the other threat to, like, our political system, and not just ours, but other countries, is subject to new corrosive forces. But as tech gets smarter, that is going to be one of the corrosive forces for all kinds of governments. That if some people who have tremendous computing resources compared to other people, those people, we all know exactly what AI is really going to turn out to be good at, but it's going to turn out to be good at some stuff. And the people who have more access to it may end up with more control in the world. And that will be non-governmental control unless they're lined up with a government. And that will be a threat to stability and to to humanity.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Hey, Sasha, along those same lines, because your show is tomorrow afternoon at 1:00 and everything. I know that you're a big NVIDIA investor and everything along those lines. But is there, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or a number of others that are out there, is there any major AI companies that you are looking at as potential things that you would want to invest in? Because I know that you are a major investor, and I just didn't know whether any of your investments are in the AI space, and if not, why they aren't. Because as Rick was just saying, AI is becoming the big talking point for a lot of people, including those in the fiscal and financial world. So I just wondered, are you looking at any tech stocks that are in the AI space, and I just named two of them: ChatGPT and Gemini.
Do you remember a gold rush in about
Mhm.
100 something 50 years ago? So there were a lot of gold diggers. Most of them lost everything. Some of them got lucky and got gold and became rich. But there was somebody who was selling shovels to all of them.
Yeah, the
And those made all the money. Those were very consistent breadwinners. And NVIDIA is such a company that sells a necessary gear to all these chat GPT and whatever else is GPT and non GPTs, and all of them uh, without which gear they are useless. They are nothing. They're less than zero because zero is zero. You have no assets, no liabilities. In their case, they will have no asset, but millions, if not billions, of liabilities. So therefore, NVIDIA is supreme company to invest that deals with all this artificial intelligence or not non-artificial intelligence, doesn't matter what. They all need to buy their gear from NVIDIA. Full stop period. There's nothing to discuss.
Okay, what's your thoughts on that, Rick? Are there any of these companies that
well, I
you're
agree with Sasha that in the gold rushes, it was the suppliers of equipment and also whorehouses and gambling dens.
Absolutely.
Donald Trump's grandfather went to the Yukon for the gold rush there, and he owned a building that it was a bar, it was a hotel, it was a brothel, and that was the start of the family fortune, was gambling and hookers. Um, so yeah, but a new economy is coming, and it, it will be possibly less human friendly. If there's a good show on TV, it's pretty fun. It's called Alien Earth. It's a spin-off of the Alien movies, and it takes place 95 years from now when the entire planet is owned by five huge corporations.
Hey, Rick and Sasha, do you know what one of the, because a friend of mine used to go, I never went, but do you know what one of the, it kind of plays to what you were just saying, what one of the biggest events in Las Vegas is, and what two groups get together that some people would say are opposites of each other, but apparently there are two conferences that happen at about the same time, and it's been going on for years. I think it's in January, so it should be coming up in about
And I know there's the big electronics conference.
right. The electronics conference happens at the same time as the porn conference. That's not accidental. So the porn
No,
conference
no, because tech guys they masturbate a lot.
right. So
The tech guys often don't have good social skills, and you don't need good social skills if you're a tech billionaire. Like that one tech, there's a tech billionaire who's married to who's Venus Williams or Serena Williams or
it's one of the Williams sisters. I forget which one it is, but
but if you're only a tech 100,000 heir, you got bad social skills and you're not rich enough to yeah. So okay,
yeah. Have you ever thought about going down to that, Sasha? Because, like I said, my good friend Ray Pascal has been there, I think, a couple of times. But he said it's a riot when you go there because you see both the porn stars and the electronic people that are there pretty much at the same time and everything. So, have you ever thought about going to this dual conference that happens? I want to say it's in either January or February.
If somebody would pay me $50,000, I could go there for maximum 4 days, but without being paid, I won't
so
consider it.
I gotta say that if a tech guy and a porn star could be a good match, that I would think that there are a lot of porn people who have terrible social skills too,
Right.
because if you had decent social skills, you might find better ways to make a living than doing porn. On the other hand, there might be really smart people in porn too who have decided, given the current landscape, that it is a shrewd move to become a porn star. That in the old days, in the 70s and the 80s, most women in porn were pushed in there by abusive guys. But now I think with 1.1 million models on OnlyFans, a lot of them might be smart, independent business women who might appreciate, a business guy, a tech guy.
Maybe they'll do that. I have to ask a friend of mine. I do have some friends in the tech field, and I do have a buddy of mine that was actually a hip hop artist that me and my brother were going to manage decades ago, and everything along those lines. And he went to one of our local universities here because there had been a couple of stars. There was the woman that went to the Duke University and then got into porn until she got outed and everything by her fellow students. But there was a gentleman
Yeah, I
at
remember.
one of our other universities as well, and he went into that field. I mean, that was like when my brother was in school. So we're talking 20, 30 years, and you usually don't stay in that field that long. So I'm thinking he's out of that field. I'm not even sure if that particular gentleman might.
So the deal with porn is that on OnlyFans, you're dealing with nerds all the time because that's where your income stream comes from. You sell subscriptions, but then you form personal relationships via texting with some of your fans, and you talk them into giving you gifts and stuff. So, it's perfect for everybody because some of these porn models who are accustomed to dealing with needy guys can meet, some needy guys in real life.
Yep. And then on that note, and then we're going to get out of here, and then we'll have World Edition tomorrow morning and World Politics on Thursday and everything like that. There is a popular trend. It's a world trend because I know people are doing it in Bangladesh. People are doing it in even Ukraine before the Ukrainian war and everything along those lines and everything. So I was just wondering, would any of you, because I saw that Neo, after his divorce, got into it, ever think about when y'all were single, because the two of you are both married, going into polyamory? Because I did see that Neo was actually touting his 4 girlfriends, because he's got 4 girlfriends and he is a well-known rapper, but he actually had pictures with them and everything.
I barely could get one girl. I mean, I had no game. So no.
Sasha, did you have any game, and would you have tried to have more than one partner at any time when you had game, maybe on the cruise ship before you met your lovely wife and everything like that? Did you ever have a game that you might have tried to have multiple partners? Because that's what polyamory or polygamy is. It's you having multiple partners.
Why not?
Now that might have been a deal as a lonely guy. I might have been willing to make that if I could get a really attractive woman, but she's like, yeah, I'll be with you some of the time. And maybe I would have been like, all right, it's better to have a super attractive partner some of the time than, somebody who's meh all of the time. Luckily, I've got a secret just to say, my partner's pretty dang attractive. But
yeah, and I've heard that, and I've seen pictures of her. But yeah, it could have been that you did what some people speculate, where you have, and that's what I was trying to figure out. Even with Neo, does that mean that he has one girlfriend on Monday and Tuesday, the other one is his Wednesday, Thursday girlfriend, then he's got his Friday, Saturday girlfriend, and then he's got his Sunday church girlfriend and everything? So,
and I got to say that one thing that I've learned, and I think every guy learns as they go from teenager to fully grown person, is even in a married relationship, that is not going to take care of all your sexual needs. You're probably going to have to jerk off some. Like when you're 14, you think, I'm going to get a girlfriend and then I'm done with all this. No, it doesn't go away. So like in a polyamory thing, is it much different from your wife having a headache 3 days a week? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And like you said, it doesn't go away. And I'm sure that they probably even have to figure out ways to put that into their relationship as well. And don't sleep on the women. Women do just as much of what you're talking about as us guys do. There's a reason that there's a whole dildo market and everything like that.
Yeah, we're all wired for it. Evolution is our puppet master, and it makes us horny.
Yeah, we'll get out here on that note and everything, and we'll have World Edition. Actually, right now, they're talking about history on the St. Cia Academy.
All right, see you tomorrow.
With some health issues. I mean, the loss of a family member, but she'll be coming back live in another, hopefully, a week or two. I got to reach out to Miss Mama Noni to see when she's ready to go live. But right now, we're running reruns because of the loss of her son and everything like that. And then, of course, we've got Sharon Campbell and her show around the Planning to Prosper coming up as well. So we got a lot of shows coming up, including the Urban Sentinel at 8 o'clock. But right now, let's get on out of here.